So I heard someone on TikTok complaining because this sounded like a watered down Bring the Horizon. Why is that a bad thing? What is going on, homies? Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Yimpossible, a variety podcast. We're up with another episode of Beats Me, and we are talking about an album today. I tell you what, and not just an album, a stellar album, but we're going to get to that in a little bit. I just want to say thank you so much for helping me get to the point I am in this little side project podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the follow button on Spotify and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Leave a rating if you can as well to let me know how I'm doing. I appreciate honest feedback. It helps me get better at this thing. It helps me get a little bit stronger at putting the podcast together and so on and so forth.
Without further ado, let's get into the album.
So before we get into the meat and bones of the album, I just have to say that when I first heard of Bad Omens, I kind of heard them through the rumor mill. Now, I will be honest with you, the first time that I actually heard of them was when they did a song. I don't think they did it for the show, but their song was on the show Paradise City, which is a show that kind of, it's very much like in the scene of kind of like emo music, rock music, and all that sort, because it has the singer of Black Veil Brides, Andy Biersack. It has the guitarist Ben Bruce from Asking Alexandria. So there are a lot of like, it's very much like a emo scene oriented type show. Cameron Boyce is in it too. Rest in peace. Miss that guy a lot. So their song was on that show for one of the episodes, and it actually was technically quote-unquote sung by Cameron Boyce, which is really cool. So I heard about him that way. I checked him out, and then I realized that they were actually opening up for Ice Nine Kills, which is, if you don't know who Ice Nine Kills is, their pretty much whole aesthetic is horror movies. They wrote the last two albums of theirs based solely on horror movies. So that's their aesthetic, but they were opening up for this tour, and I thought, okay, maybe it's time to actually check them out. And that's where I got into the whole beginning of the album cycle here. Now, the first song, actually, that I think I really, really listened to was their title track of this album, The Death of Peace of Mind. Now, I actually really liked the track when it first came out. I thought it was really, really cool sounding. Really neat blend of just this kind of very subtle electronic elements to their music. And then they just drop a breakdown out of nowhere. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Which is pretty cool. I like the way that they put that together. But then I listened to their past discography because I was trying to get ready for the show. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about their past stuff. Like, it's fine, I guess, but it's like, it wasn't my favorite. Maybe there was one song, like Dethrone or Glass Houses, that was piquing my interest, but pretty much everything past that was like, whatever. So, I heard Death of Peace of Mind, and then a few other, I don't remember if there were some singles that came out while they were on tour as well, or if it was just Death of Peace of Mind. I don't remember the timeline exactly, but what was really cool is that they had like three bands, not they, but Ice Nine Kills had three bands opening up for them, and it was Currents, Fame on Fire, and Bad Omens. It wasn't exactly in that order, but Bad Omens was right before the headliner, Ice Nine Kills. Now, it was so freaking cool because of the fact that they actually opened up with Death of Peace of Mind, and I was not expecting it, and it's very kind of like subtle. It's not really subtle per se, but it's got like, it grooves, but it's not like punching in your face and everything, and it's very kind of dark, so it literally was like a red light stage setup that was very, very dark and very, it's not like I couldn't see them and everything, but it just set the stage. And Like, they came out, like, one or two members at a time. Noah Sebastian, the singer, just, like, came out, started singing. And then when the second verse came out, the drummer came out, and then everyone else came out during the second chorus, because that's when everything kind of starts to slowly kick in. But it was a cool way to open up their set, and I wasn't expecting them to, so it was a really pleasant surprise. Now, a little bit after I saw them, they started to release more singles, and I didn't actually look at the track listing, but they released 5 singles, and so I was like, okay, whenever people release 5 singles, it's a little bit rough, because of the fact that usually albums are maybe 11, 12 songs long and everything. They released 5 singles. However, on the album, there's actually 15. So there was 10 more that we really hadn't gotten quite yet. And that first single was the title track, Death of Peace of Mind. And then they released What Do You Want From Me in that kind of similar vein. And I will talk a little bit more about that as well. All right, let's talk about the album itself. Now, if I had to give you a 1-sentence description of this album, basically the way I can describe it is, all right, you had a real rough day at work and it's a Friday. So you had a rough day at work and you're basically just kind of like, well, whatever, right? Like, anything could happen. I'm basically whatever right now. So you go home, you get into your slickest all black outfit. Could be like a really slick button up, could be a really sick dress, whatever is black and makes you feel good. And you go out to the club, and let's just say that this whole album is like when you go to the club after a really bad day in an all black outfit, and you don't really know what the rest of the night's going to entail. You just know it's going to be buck wild a little bit. Who knows? Maybe, just maybe you get arrested. Maybe you wake up in a random place in the bushes in the middle of the park. We don't know. Basically, that's what this album is. All right, so here are some of the highlights of The Death of Peace of Mind by Bad Omens. So I will say that for the most part, it is a very refreshing kind of electronic elemented mix with metalcore. And Noah Sebastian's voice actually sounds like really good on this album. If you heard the intro, I will say that there was a guy on TikTok, I don't remember what his name is, I don't honestly really care that much. No offense, if you're listening to this, sorry, but I just scroll past, I don't really care. But that being said, I heard a guy on TikTok who said that this sounded like a watered down Bring Me the Horizon, and that one of the most kind of telling factors of that was that his voice sounds like Ollie Sykes, which I don't really agree with at all. In my opinion, Ollie Sykes has got more of a rougher sounding voice. It's probably because he didn't really know how to scream healthily all those years. And I don't know if Noah Sebastian really knows any better, but they do not sound the same. I will say this is a pure example of why they don't sound the same. Because in the moments that Noah kind of starts to sing, and like it's not like a rough, harsh sounding sing, it's like a very, very kind of falsetto, like almost mixed voice type of range that he sings in, and the color that he sings in, and it works well for like the electronic elements of this album. I think it would have been a little bit weird if he tried to like kind of bust out like any type of chest voice or whatsoever, but I thought that like mix of falsetto and it's kind of like upper range is pretty good. And Bring the Horizon does that as well, but I will say that when Ollie Sykes tries to do it, it's not as smooth sounding. Not necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of something that I noticed. It's not like super, super smooth whenever Ollie Sykes do it. It kind of has a little bit of raggedness to it. It's a little bit kind of more distorted, but Noah Sebastian, whenever he wants to sing smooth, he sings smooth, and he does it very well. Some of my favorite tracks on here are, if I had to pick some, because I pretty much saved the entire album, and I will say that the way that I determine like a good album from a great album to like a bad album or anything is that if I start to save songs and I save like 4 or 5 in a row and everything, it's pretty good so far. And I've saved like most of the album besides maybe one. But it has a really strong opening. It opens up with Concrete Jungle, and he slams in with that's another track that's very electronic, a transition to metalcore type song. The thing about Concrete Jungle, Death of Peace of Mind, and What Do You Want From Me is that they all kind of sound the same. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it kind of, it's like a little bit following a formula. There's a verse and a chorus and a verse and a chorus, which is basic song structure, right? But they have the same vibe to it, so they basically kind of are almost, they have this electronic element and everything, and then they like go into like full metalcore instrumentation breakdown type stuff, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I can see why some people were a little bit put off by it, because hearing 3 songs that are similar to that kind of manner and formula could be a little bit exhausting, especially for such a long album. So I kind of get why some people there might have thought the way they did. Now, pretty solid tracks. Nowhere to Go, Take Me First. Take Me First has got like a metalcore instrumentation, but they did a thing on there where they, and like a lot of bands in the scene have kind of been doing this for a while. Bring the Horizon kind of started this off, especially on Sempiterno when they did Take Me, or not Take Me, Can You Feel My Heart? Goodness, I don't know why I said Take Me. That was a little weird. But on that track, Take Me First, they have the metalcore instrumentation, and they have like an electronic synth riff on the top that goes boo-doo-doo-doo-doo, boo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Not the best, obviously, singing from me. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty good. But that being said, it has that on the top of it. And a lot of bands have been kind of putting that into their sound as of late. What's really cool, and I didn't even realize that it went into a transition, but between the 5th track and the 6th track, What It Cost into Like a Villain, those are 2 separate tracks. What It Cost is like an interlude that leads into Like a Villain. Apparently, they were going to make it one track, and it was almost 7 minutes long in length. I found that out through like a live video that they did, and that's ridiculous. I don't know why they thought that, but I'm glad that they did, because it would have been like very, very long and kind of a lot. But like, it was such a smooth transition, so much so that I didn't actually realize that they changed songs. And then I look at my car, like, screen, and I went, oh, that's a different song. Okay, cool. I love that they added those electronic songs in, though. Like, Bad Decision, it's is really, really fun to listen to. It's very much kind of just like a vibey type song. Gets stuck in my head super, super frequently. Who Are You is a pretty good one, too. And Somebody Else is awesome as well. Kind of more on the electronic side. The only song I will say that I'm not, like, super keen on the entire time is IDWT $, which stands for I Don't Want the Money. But that being said, the kind of instrumental sonic landscape of that song is pretty good. Like, it has like a cool little do in like in between the second chorus and the bridge. But I mean, like, the lyrical content, I just kind of was like, whatever, this is whatever. Cool, you don't want the money. I don't really care, you know? But like, for the entire album, it's kind of been like this dark type feel, setting the scene both on the sonic level and on the lyrical level, just kind of like their actual Spotify picture is just a picture of them with like very dark blood red lighting. And that's kind of what I have been associating with the overall image of this album as well. Like, whenever I've been thinking about this album and just kind of painting pictures in my head, that's all I see, really. So I'm kind of glad that they fit that aesthetic there. And that's what I think of. So it kind of almost comes across to me that way.
Hey, Eric, imagine speaking words like a person.
Gee, thanks. Why didn't I think of that voice in my head? Cool. Anyways, but about this album, just really kind of cool stuff overall that they do. And it's weird because I almost kind of get bits and pieces of this stuck in my head. Kind of like I literally got one time the bridge of Just Pretend. I got the bridge and the outro stuck in my head because they're kind of the same format. They're just structured kind of in two different spots. But I get bits and pieces stuck in my head. And so I'm really glad I saw them with Ice Nine Kills. They're actually going on tour again with In This Moment and Dead. So that's going to be a fun tour. I really want to actually see some of these songs played live. Honestly, I would be okay if they played their entire set with all songs from The Death of Peace of Mind because I genuinely want to know how they would perform them live. They have that type of dark energy to it. And if it's anything like when they came out and opened up with Death of Peace of Mind, when I first saw them, it's going to be a really cool vibe. It's going to be really cool. So I'm curious to see if they do that. But overall, pretty solid, pretty strong outing. It's an album that I have downloaded. I like listening to it. I've got quite a few of those songs on my gym playlist. So I'm super stoked about it. But just to conclude, I think this album can really be accessible to anyone, really. Whether or not you like metalcore or rock music, or if you're just kind of I'm not into that scene at all, the electronic tracks are on there, and they're also pretty good. Just kind of very vibey, dark-sounding songs. Those songs, if you want to talk about the electronic tracks, are Bad Decisions, Who Are You, Somebody Else. Those are kind of the electronic tracks. If you're looking for something that kind of does a good job of mixing both and has a metalcore edge to it. Death of Peace of Mind, that's the title track. What Do You Want From Me? That's a pretty good track as well. They also do Take Me First. That's also good as well. So those are just some highlights. Like a Villain's also pretty good. All the singles that came out are pretty solid so far. And I will say that they gained a lot of traction with that tour with Ice Nine Kills, and I'm very excited to see how they project from here. So let me know what you think about the album if you go to listen to it, and it might not be your cup of tea, but I'd say give it a try based on the tracks that I kind of gave you. If you're more along the lines of I don't want to get involved with the rock element whatsoever, you might like it. You never know, but let me know what you think about it either way. So that being said, follow me at all my socials. My socials are Impossible Podcast at Instagram. You can also reach out to me on here, and I'll be posting a poll or question on the Spotify just to check in, see if you guys listen to the album or not. But really cool mix overall of electronic and metalcore elements, and it was very personality-wise driven towards the darker kind of electronic elements, and I think they did a great job with it. So yeah, let me know what you think, and I hope you have a happy time listening. I hope you are good to yourself along the way. And did I tell you to be good to yourself along the way? Be good to yourself along the way.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, voice in my head, can you stop talking now? Thanks.